Hey y'all, it's your friendly neighborhood independent author here, sweating because it's 97 degrees outside, but we're working. And I just wanted to share my thoughts on the idea of having a pen name. Is it pointless? Is it played out? What are my thoughts on it? Now, I'm bringing this discussion up because, well, in the writer group, the last video, one of the last videos I did, I talked about, referenced a writer group that I used to be a part of. One of the other discussions that branched out from me being in this group, or one of the discussions I remember when I was in this group, was the let's just say, I guess, the legitimacy or the usefulness of pen names. Now that I'm speaking about it, I feel like this group used to talk a whole bunch of mess just behind my back and thought that they can say things within the group that I wouldn't notice, but whatever. They know that I have a pen name. In fact, Ernest Ryder is my pen name. My last name is not actually Ryder, for those who did not know. My last name is not, I'm not going to tell you what my last name is, but it's not Ryder. In fact, I'll get into why I use a pen name. But pretty much the comment that was used in as to why the members of this group believe pen names were pointless was because people are going to find out who you are anyways. And, one individual was pretty much saying things like people who use a pen name are trying to hide, or that was pretty much the use for pen names, really. A lot of authors, creatives in general, directors, even filmmakers, a lot of creatives in general, no matter the field, use a name that isn't their actual name, but so in the author in the book publishing space, it's no different. So but we just call them pig names instead of monikers or celebrity names or whatever the case is, right? It's all the same thing for those who are unaware of what that terminology means. But anyways, her argument was, people use pen names to try to hide their identity, and it's pointless because people are going to find out who you are in anyway, so you might as well use your real name, or simply just don't put your stuff out there in general, right? That was one of the members' arguments. The other one kind of went on the same vein, but was like, well, took it a step further, like, well, I don't know what to do because I don't want people to, like, if people dislike my book, I don't want them to know my actual name. But then if a pen name's not going to protect me, what am I going to do? Okay. Just a quick answer to that. That questionnaire for anyone who might be wondering the same thing or have the same concerns. You're not going to please everybody. It's the same advice I used to give to that member all the time. Whether they listen to it or not, it's up to them. But you're not going to please everybody. So whether you use a pen name or your actual government name when you're publishing your book or publishing your movie or dropping that music or whatever the case is, if people don't like it, they don't like it, and you can't escape the criticism per se. The only way you can escape the criticism is by not releasing said art. That's the only way you can escape the criticism from your art, about your art. It's not releasing it. Once you put it out there in the world, it's up to public consumption. Now, whether it's 3 people who notice your art, or it's 300 or 3,000, 3 million, people are going to share their thoughts, because that's what we do when we consume art. We share our thoughts. But that's with that. Now, as far as just my personal thoughts on the whole aspect of a pen name and why I use one, I use it because, one, obviously I'm I'm pro pen name. I'm not anti government name. I'm pro pen name. I'm pro choice. You know what I'm saying? That's not just my political stance. That's my stance on a lot of things. If someone chooses to use a pen name or a moniker, whatever they want to use, as their new way of expressing themselves or showing up in the world as the creative, let them do it. If someone chooses not to, I'm fine with that as well. I'm fine with that as well. Now, the reason why I choose a pen name is I give you two reasons. There's actually a few, but I'll give you two. Okay, and these are like the top two reasons, right? Number one, there's already an author actually with my last name. Now, my actual last name is the rarest last name I've ever seen in my life, and I am not over exaggerating. Everybody with my last name is related to me. But this one author, when I found out that there is an author with my last name, first of all, it's a woman who is married to a man with my last name. So she took his last name, as with most people do when they get married, or most women do when they get married. I don't know the statistics. But I'm not related to the woman. I don't know if I'm either related to the guy, but they have my last name, and it's her husband's last name, not her actual maiden name. She was actually going by her maiden name. I'm not going to expose who this author is, because then again, that's exposing my last name. But she was going by her maiden name until she got married. And then when she got married, she then changed her name, not just her legal name, but her author name, to her husband's last name. So now she goes by her first name, her new last name, which is my last name. Okay. Now I'm not making this story up. This is not a woman who's married to me. I am not married at all. But I say this just to say there's already someone else with my very rare last name. And I figured, and I get it. There's a lot of writers out there there's a lot of, especially writers with the last name Writer, with the moniker Writer. But that was one of the reasons why I chose it. Because I said, you know what? It is common. It's this weird thing where it's like I wanted to keep the rarity of my last name. So it's like that one of the reasons as to why it's like I want to keep the rarity of my last name, so I'm not gonna use my last name as my pen name for being when I put out my books, right? Number two is really to, in a way, kind of protect my family. And to keep them from trying to say shit about, my books, or trying to honestly take credit for stuff. But it is, in a way, I'm being honest and truthful. In a way, it's kind of to protect them. I know me. I know my mouth. I know my mind. I know my stories. They can be a bit controversial. And when I say a bit, that's an understatement. Let me just put it that way, right? If I were to put things out in my last name, I don't want people of my family, I don't want somebody reading my stories or whatever, right? And then seeing the last name and then looking up members of my family, or, finding, if they even know members of my family, and saying, hey, and trying to associate them with my work. My stories are my stories. Whatever I say whatever I say in my stories, you hold me accountable for that as the creator of that. You don't hold my dad, my uncle, my aunt, my whoever, right? My cousin, my niece, nephew. You don't hold anybody else for the things that I personally say in my stories. If you take issue with a story of mine, whether you just don't like the story, or you don't like a certain situation, you have a problem with a certain scene, or whatever the case is, a certain character, You bring that to me. You don't bring that to family. So that is, like I said, is the second reason, and really the top two reasons as to why, like I said, I use a pen name. Okay, because the pen name of writer, and I get it, there are actual real life people who aren't writers with the last name Writer, but you're gonna have a pretty hard time figuring out if you hate something that I wrote. You got a problem with something in one of my books, right? You want to ban it. You want to add it to one of the banned books, books that are banned. You want to burn it and everything. You're gonna have a pretty hard time finding out which one of these writers out there are innocent of, this atrocity that this writer that you're looking at, is. What you're gonna do? You're gonna accuse every writer because Ernest Ryder said something? No, you're most likely, if you're, one of those individuals, Karen of some sort, that's the word, right? Like, if you're someone that's going to complain about something that I wrote, you're most likely going to be like, well, dang it, I don't know who is who, and you're probably going to give up. You're probably going to give up, whereas with, again, my last name, you are likely, if you find somebody with my last name, you are 99.99%, it's a chance. And that's not like, I don't know if that's the real math, but I feel as though it's a high probability that you will find somebody. If you do know somebody with my last name, or you find somebody with my last name, it's a high probability that I am actually related to that individual. And even if you do that, again, whatever issues you may have with me, you take that up with me. That's what book reviews are for. You take an issue with something I have with the book, or you want to praise something, right? You leave a review. A nasty one or not, you leave a review. You don't go seeking the author's family because you don't like something that you read in the book, or you didn't like the book. You feel as though you didn't get your money's worth. You're not going to get a refund. Definitely not from me. I don't know how others authors speak. You're not getting a refund. Okay. You didn't buy satisfaction. You bought, access to the book. Whether you were satisfied or not is totally up to your preference. And that is fine if you weren't. So leave the review. If you feel as though the book isn't worth buying, let people know that. Let people know that in the review. I am encouraging you to be as authentic as you are, as I am in my stories. I want you to be just as authentic in general when it comes to leaving a review and expressing yourself and expressing how you feel. All in all, like I said, I am a fan of pen names because, again, for the one reason, I'm not trying to compete with my cousin. if this other person, this other author with my last name, who I've never met in my life, somehow is related to me through her husband. Once again, I'm not trying to compete with her, but also the writer last name is so common within the creative space. It's like, what are you going to do? You're going to take on all of us? Go right ahead. You attack me, it's like you're attacking the other person. And again, I'm protecting family, and protecting myself from family. So, yeah, that's my thoughts on pen names. If